Hey, it's Don here from the board, and it is another one of my relatively infamous impromptu live streams. I was told a long time ago by some very knowledgeable people who do live streaming that I should give as much notice as possible so people can get notification on email, on YouTube if they're on it, and actually set time and prepare to be here. Plus, if I give more than 2 hours notice, it would mean that my live streams would have a higher bump on the actual live stream list, and therefore there's a greater chance that people could come along and actually check out the stream. But of course, because I live my life quite vicariously, when I have days off available and things like that, I don't set up my live streams to be that far in advance. It's really just how I'm feeling and how everything's going on the day, opportunity and so on and so forth. So it's just another impromptu live stream. Now today's live stream is going to be me building a 96 key keyboard kit. It was a very cheap keyboard kit that I had purchased on TaoBao a very, very long time ago. It's been sitting in a drawer for about 8 months. So I figured now is probably a good time to build it because I've got a lot of other stuff that's building up. I've got the Ergo Travel that I have to build as well. I still am trying to get some switches to fit on my Delta Split, which is even older than this kit that I'm building today, and things like that. But there's a couple of things that I want to mention first and foremost. There's a couple of announcements, shout outs, if you would say so. Thanks to Daily Clack, there is going to be a Melbourne meetup on the 15th of September, and I believe it's going to be at some kind of good game bar type of thing. Please, of course, head over to the Australian Facebook page for mechanical keyboards or the Australian Mechanical Keyboard Discord for more details. Otherwise, you can also head over to a brand new keyboard forum called TypeHype and get the details there as well. Now, I want to talk very briefly about TypeHype also before I get into actually building keyboards, because leading up to now, as we've talked about a couple of podcasts ago, there was a lot of drama involved with the sale of GeekHack, and because of that, there's a bunch of new websites, new forums that have kind of popped up and spawned, which are to, I suppose, potentially take over the space of GeekHack should GeekHack somehow fall apart. It's almost like a nuclear war situation, because people weren't quite sure what was happening with GeekHack and the new owners, which we now know is Mastrop. Keep Talk came out of it, and that's being run on a platform with some very experienced people from the keyboard community, like Huey from Top Clack and Norbauer, and Hata from Input Club. But some other people have also come up with some other websites, and one of them is called TypeHype, and you can check it out at typehype.net, typehype.net. Now, the reason why I'm shouting out TypeHype is because it's still quite small, it's still growing, it's about 180 members at the moment. It is run off more like a traditional style looking forum, and I've been involved with beta testing, bug testing and things like that, and I actually know one of the two people who sort of set up that site. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to TC for getting that up and running. More places for people to hang out, the better. It doesn't really matter. It's not really a competition. You're just going to get a different vibe, different community, and they will serve different purposes. TC, however, has also decided to sweeten the pot. He's running a competition to give away a Switch collection that he has actually built up that he was planning to sell but is now giving away. And it's got 150 plus different Switches in it. And all you have to do to get involved in that is get a picture that's keyboard related, put it in that thread, and hopefully people will hit like, and the actual post with the most likes on it will win. Now the competition is going to run until August the 5th, so you've still got heaps of time to get yourself a really cool picture and put that up. So please head over to TypeHype, check it out, be in the running to win a massive Switch collection. So I see that we've got 6 people watching right now. Thanks very much for tuning in, and let's go into what's actually happening. So off goes the background, on goes my desktop. So my trusty desktop, I've got my usual TS100 soldering iron, I've got a sponge cleaner, brush sponge. I've got my 0.7mm solder. And what I'm actually going to be playing with today is this. So I bought this ages ago. It was about $100, I think, from memory. It was so long ago, I don't even remember how much it cost me. It's a straight up Chinese 96 key PCB. It's pretty standard, though you do have a little bit of options on the bottom row. Of course, when I get to that, it's going to be interesting to see if I screw that up or not, because I kind of screwed up my bottom row when I built the 60% for New Year's. It does have RGB underglow, so you can see the RGB LEDs there. It's a top row and a bottom row. It uses the USB mini connector though, not the micro connector, which will be cool. And it has a folded bent stainless plate. Now this is definitely steel because it's way too heavy for it to be aluminium. It does leave it relatively exposed and open, and the back of it, interestingly, actually has a acrylic diffuser with it. Now what happened was, I have 2 diffusers in this kit, and the funny story about the diffusers was when the TaoBao seller shipped it to Superbuy, the warehouse, unpacked it and took all the photos of the parts in the kit, and there was no acrylic plate as it was meant to have. And I said to them, it's meant to have an acrylic plate, and they went, well, it didn't come with one. Nothing looks like what you're describing in the pictures. So they went back to the seller and said, you're missing the acrylic plate. So they sent another one. But when I finally got the package, there was actually 2. And I think what had happened was, when they took everything out, the acrylic plate has that paper laminate stuff on it. So they probably thought it was just packaging, because it was actually slipped inside this, but they pulled it out. And it was kind of like sandwiching between the PCB and the case. So when they got sent the other one, they probably realized, oh, actually there already was one, but they sent it with me anyway, rather than the cost of sending it back to the owners. So there you go. So that's what I'm going to be building. Now the other thing that is going to be, of course, involved in this is switches, and today I'm going to be using box Navies. I've had these for a really long time as well. I haven't actually built anything with them, and I figured I might as well use these, something nice and something cheap, just to balance it out into a medium level kind of keyboard. I do like the Navies, they sound great. I haven't had an opportunity to type with them on a full keyboard, so this will be fantastic. And of course, once this is built, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to leave it at home or if I'm going to take it to work. We'll just have to see how that goes. I do want to say thank you to Daily Clack. So these guys are local to me in Australia, because I got these switches from Daily Clack. So if you're in Australia and you're looking for a whole bunch of box switches and other bits and pieces, make sure you check out Daily Clack. Rightio. Other things that I'm going to be using today is probably this this screwdriver set that I did a video on during the week as well. So this is the Xiaomi Wiha set, and it's just a really lovely, small, quite cheap and relatively affordable screwdriver set, because there's some bits and pieces that I'm going to have to put on. Now, I've never built a plate mount keyboard before, so if I do screw up somehow, please, if you're watching and you have the ability to actually chat, let me know. And I see that there's already a comment from Jebril, but it's been retracted, so I don't know if it was something that the auto moderator took away or if they actually removed it themselves. So the first thing that I think I need to do is I have to put the standoffs for the acrylic on, because if I screw them on afterwards, I won't be able to attach them correctly. So the actual keyboard came with the bits and pieces, so there's some stabilizers and there's feet, and these are the actual bits and pieces for holding onto the acrylic afterwards. Let's get my little my dish there so I don't lose my bits and pieces. It was a wave. So thank you very much for checking out the stream. Appreciate you coming along. Let's flip that over. So, I'm not quite sure how this fully works, but let's just grab one of these plates. So that's one of those acrylic plates that I'm talking about. They're both clear, so it's just a straight up clear diffuser, nothing special about them, and I think that's the way that it lines up. Just like that. So the holes, you can see the actual slots in it, which is great. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little standoffs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, there's an automatic fail because there's 7 holes, but only 6 screws, 6 standoffs. So I just need to figure out where I want to attach them. I probably want to put them at least on the ends. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, no, I'm just going to do the bottom. Wait, what? These holes don't even line up. Like, what about these bottom ones? What about these bottom ones? Hey? Well, that's a bit silly, isn't it? As you can see, there's obviously some big discrepancies there already. So let's pop out the screwdriver, and these are tiny little Phillips. Let's go with that size there. Screws magnetic? Nope, the screws are not, but that should fit all right. So where do these line up? Let's check it out. So there's some hole in here that lines up as well. That there's a hole that's there, but it's not even a plated hole. Well, I guess the choice is made for us, isn't it? We'll go with one up there. Okay. Second one. Now, someone did ask me about this particular screwdriver set because it didn't look like it had any grips on it, so you couldn't put a lot of force on it. I don't think it needs any because it's actually got like a triangular cut on that. So if the camera will focus up there, no, it doesn't want to focus properly, but it does actually have a triangular cut on it, so you do get plenty of grip on that without it being textured. So I've got 2, 3, 4. Let's go with the middle because that's really the limited choices that I'm going to have. Having a day off, funnily enough, I took the day off because I had to burn some excess leave, and I ended up getting sick over the weekend with a little bit of a cold. So kind of sucks, but would have still had to take the day off, just differently. Of course, I can't go back to work and claim that I was sick and then, you know, get a certificate or something. Well, I could go to a doctor and get a certificate, but that's just too much effort. Not really worth it. Having to go to the doctor and sit in the waiting room with other sick people and sign off on Medicare. Not that Medicare technically costs me anything because I already pay for it in my taxes. Alright, So that screws on. So for the 6 people who are hanging out here, I know some of you, or at least one of you's local in Australia. I think 2 of you might be. Not quite sure where the rest of you guys are, but if you feel like saying hello and not just lurking, please, by all means, do so. More than happy for you to say something. Hey, look at that. I've actually got 7 leftover screws. What the heck are they even thinking about? They're missing a standoff and they're missing another screw. Or is it just a spare screw? So weird. So weird. It's like when you buy from TaoBao, it's like a box of chocolates, you know, from Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get. Even if they show you pictures, by the time you actually get it, you check it out, it can still be a mystery. Alright, so all my 6 standoffs are in, and then in theory if I flip this over so it's on the other side, I should be able to see the standoffs lining up with the holes. Close enough, good enough, excellent. So I should be able to screw that on after I finish building the board, and it's all good to go. Hello BB Feats. Thank you very much for coming along and checking out this stream. So I'm going to put that aside so I don't lose those screws. Now, because this is a plate, hello Dolos Vipeldra, if that's how it's pronounced, my apologies if it's not. Got a couple of feet there. I'll put the feet back in. Now, because this is a plate mount kit, I need to pop in these stabilizers first before I start any work. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to have a good time because I won't be able to get them in later. So let's just move the PCB off for the moment. And we'll start with the stabilizer for my spacebar. Now, what's the right way for these to go on? Anybody know? Put that back in for the moment. Put that aside. Okay, so how do these actually fit in? Is that right? Or is that... I've never done plate mounted before. Is that correct? I don't know if that's right. Or is it this way? I think it's this way. Yeah, okay. Is that right? No. I've got to get that in first. Is that right? No. Okay. Let's try that again. Watch me fumble around. They do go in through the bottom, right? Think, is that how they're supposed to go in? Anyone wants to help me out here? This is really, really hard to get in. Or do they just slot in the top? They go in through the top? If they go in through the top, do I take the wire out? I've got to pop the wire out, right? Alright, let's try that. Okay, so like I said, this is the first time I've ever used plate mount stabs, so you'll have to bear with me a little. Okay, so Are they going that way? Aha! Okay, so they do go in through the top. Learnt something new today. Plate mounts go in through the top. Woo! How does the wire stay in? Somehow? Alright, well, let me just pop these back out again. Because the wire sits in this bit. Doesn't the wire have to go in with that though? Right, okay. I get you. I got you. Now, I know people are going to be like, oh my god, you got to clip your stabilizers. So, yeah. Otherwise, they're going to feel like really mushy. But because they're plate mount, I don't think it matters. Is that right? Because plate mounts, they don't sit on anything. So it wouldn't matter. Alright, so let's just get that wire in on that side. Yeah, we've got that orientation correct. Woohoo! Come on. Get in there. Hey. How are these? The van has a video on it. Well, that's not going to help me right now. Okay, there we go. Alright, I've got one in. Let's pop that out. Let's get the second one in. Introducing a lot of errors into my build today. But you know what? That's perfectly fine because it's part of a learning process. And I'm always keen to learn. Okay, so that's in. So the wire goes in like that, I believe, is what I've been told. Yep. Aha, there we go. And that's down, that's down. And in theory, that should allow me to... There we go. That'll move up and down. Cool. Excellent. So, let's try and do that with the remaining of my stabilizers. Where are the cutouts? Cutouts go that way. Snap. Snap. Up. Cutouts go that way. Sit it in. There we go. Normally I would be very much a PCB mount stabilizer guy. That's my personal preference. But this is what came with the kit, so this is what I got to live with. I'm not too fussed at the end of the day, really, because I mean, you can always, you know, desolder and pull them out and swap them if the PCB supports other stabilizers, which it looks like it does. So if I did want to spend the extra money and get some more stabilizers that would be PCB mount, I can. I'd just have to desolder, and well, that doesn't bother me either because I've already done that before for some other builds. Come on. There we go. Okay, so they're all in. I do apologize for that. Have some tea. Okay. So that part's in. My standoffs are in. Now it's actually time to kind of align and snap up some of my switches. So this part's going to be kind of tricky because I can pop in switches. So Mr. Lamborghini asks, bent case and stock stabs that came included, does it rattle? Yeah, they probably will rattle. I wouldn't be able to tell you 100% about it yet, but let's just get a keycap. So you can kind of hear. That's what it kind of sounds like, at least on the 2U. But we won't know till we get to the end, once everything is actually put on it. Alright, so the challenging part here is because my switches are box switches, and currently they do not have PCB mount bottoms on them. It means that it's a bit of a fun time, essentially trying to make sure that when you do put the PCB on it, all the pins go through. But of course the trick here is you do a couple in the corners, you solder them in, and then the rest should be easy. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be popping the corners in. Snap. Make sure the pins go through that. Now, because the bottom row has a bit of variation, it's relatively easy because I can do some of these ones here that don't have any variation. Then I can worry about their actual placement elsewhere. I just got to make sure I get these ones right to start with, and then everything should be okay. So I'll put one into there. I won't worry about holding the PCB right now. Just got to make sure that the actual assignments are correct. And then, oh, that one's going to be a pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that one in first instead, and I'll deal about the rest of them later. So if I flip, oh, that one doesn't want to stay in very well, that's okay. Alright, so if I flip that over, they're in, they're in, they're in, and they're in. So I've got 4 cornerstone switches in that I can solder, and we should be good to go. So there's my iron. It says press start to heat up. So there it goes. It's ramping up. 20 degrees. Yo, what are you doing? Let's try that again. Alright, press the button to heat up. There we go. So now it's starting to ramp. I've got a blob of solder on the end there to protect the actual tip while it's not being in use, because it's been a little while since I did a solder job. So yeah. It was 0 degrees out my way this morning here in Sydney. So yeah, it was a bit chilly. Just a little bit chilly. That solder's starting to go soft now at about 270 and 300. There's a bit of smoke coming off that. Just clean that off. And just re-tin it with some fresh solder. Clean that off. Now probably people will be like, you don't have any fume extractor and stuff like that. No, I do not have a fume extractor, and for most part they're not very effective. I did some research and I found some studies that indicated most of those commercially available and cheap fume extractors for soldering don't actually do anything. All they're doing is just moving smoke. They don't actually prevent the soldering, the rosin fumes from being stopped, if that makes any sense. So while they do work in the context of keeping smoke out of your face, they're not actually effective at pulling particulate away from you. The carbon filters are also not effective at preventing the compounds from getting into your lungs. So it was interesting. I did read that article, and so I decided there really wasn't much point in investing in one. So now I'm just doing these corner switches. You can't really see what I'm doing here anyway, because the metal leg that's kind of getting in the way there. But you're just gonna have to trust me that the plume of smoke that you're seeing is me successfully soldering in some switch pins. Giving that a light reflow touch up. And where's that shift key? There it is. Now what I didn't show earlier, which I can in a moment, is that I actually did test the PCB before I started all of this, because there was no point if the PCB wasn't even going to light up. So now that I've got those corner switches in, hopefully they're all good. Yep. Okay. I've got a cable here. There is the mini B connector, and look at that. Yeah. So that definitely does work. It's just very bloody bright. So let's not have that on while I'm trying to get all these in. So the boring, relatively easy part is getting all these switches in until we get to that bottom row. So how else is everyone doing, and anything in particular that they're waiting on, building, lusting after, opening their wallets for on group buys? At the moment I've only got one thing that's kind of waiting in a group buy, which is the Donut Cables Scrabble PCB. I thought I'd get in on that for the novelty factor of having such a massive board, but also because I'm thinking of actually soldering my switch collection to it and then programming it so that when you press each switch it will actually display what the switch is. I figured that would be a neat way of actually having a switch collection that's relatively permanent, and if you took it to like a meetup or something, you could hook it up to say like you know, a tablet, plug it in with like an OTG cable or something if you had to, and then people could actually press it and it would tell them straight off the bat what was actually being pressed. So of course you know, if people are spamming keys because they want to see how it feels, then you're just going to get lines and lines of text, but you just disconnect the pad if you needed to. Should probably check that these are actually going in right. They're not bending, but they don't feel like they're being bent. Yeah, okay. So they're going in, but there's quite a bit of flex on this PCB because as the center of the stems are going in it, it's pushing the PCB. So when I do solder it, I'm going to have to make sure that I push down on it quite firmly. Otherwise, I'm going to get like the PCB is going to be flexing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily that bad as long as you get good solder contact, but it wouldn't be ideal. That feels pretty good. Normally I'm not an RGB kind of person. I actually don't know what this runs off. Maybe it runs off bootmapper or something. Not 100% sure. I'll have to do a bit more research and ask people. But if there's a way of changing or, you know, affecting the programming on it as well as the RGB, because if I take it to work, I probably don't want it to be looking terribly gamer-esque. Just probably not something I'd want to be doing. Been using the VA clone that I also got from TaoBao at work, and I've been enjoying it. It's been a fun keyboard to use, and I know people tend to come by if they've never seen my keyboard before and see it and then be like, oh, that's really cool. So I think if I do take this to work, it'd be nice because it just means they get to see something different, and it's kind of like, you know, mixing things up a little bit, because once people get accustomed to seeing something, they don't really pay any more attention to it. And naturally, you know, if you want to always have a talking piece happening, you've got to be willing to change every so often to make sure, yeah, that there's always something for people to talk about again. Now at the moment, we've got about 920 something subscribers. I think like 1923 maybe. Of course, when we get to 2,000, I've been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Please, come on guys. We can get to 2,000 subscribers. I can finally do this giveaway. And this can go to some new homes, which would be fantastic. It's not that I don't want to keep them or love and appreciate them. It's just that I would feel bad that they didn't go to someone because they were sent to me out of the generosity of our fans and supporters. So Jolly Green Giant as well as Coscaps, and I think, you know, in terms of deserving for that, it should go to somebody in the community rather than sitting with me. It's not that I don't like artisans or don't appreciate artisans. I just felt that it wasn't deserved from me. Of course, people might beg to differ because they got sent to me by our fans, but that's an entirely different story. Now, this is a 96 key. The bag had 110, so I'm hoping to have leftovers. Otherwise, I kind of misunderstood exactly what a 96 key is if it has more than 110 switches in it. That said, I'm starting to run out of switches, so hopefully I got that right. Now, these are stock switches. They're not lubed. or anything like that. I could lube them, but I was too lazy to. And this is not a premium board. This is not, you know, a board with very expensive PCB or case or anything like that. And I just felt it wasn't worthwhile going to that level of effort to do all of that if it's just going to be a cheapy board from TaoBao. Of course, you can disagree. There's no problems with that whatsoever. And why are you not going into your home? Hey, Switchy McGee. Oh. Hey, one having fun with Kane? Thank you very much for joining us. I'm hoping to be able to continue to keep up the good work, but you know, sometimes life has a way of getting in the way, and all you can do when that happens is yeah. Uh-oh. Okay, so that one didn't go in properly. Crikey. That one's going to have a bent pin. Look at that. Flattened pin. Well, that wasn't very good, was it? Alright, you. That's the problem with doing builds like this. Hey. You gotta check, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. There we go. Okay. So that one's gotta check them. It's amazing how well your finger can pick up on sharp things when you press on stuff. Because I can press on them and I can tell straight away if something's poking my finger. And that's the quick and easy way of checking if something is sitting in properly or not. Okay, so now that's fixed up, let's try this one again. Why are you not behaving? Okay, so there's one. Whoa! Did they screw this up? What's going on here? So that should be. They screwed it up. I think they screwed it up. That switch, none of the holes is going to match. Will this one go in? That don't go in either. Okay, so I just want to. So the orientation of this is correct because of the alignment and the spacebar. Every other switch isn't going on fine, except for these two. Now, if we have a look here, if it's going to focus. Hey, hey. All right. So, ordinarily you would think that they would have the switches rotated so that the pins would be on this side, but the height of these, the cutouts are off. It doesn't actually fit in because if I put the switches in where they need to go, the hole don't line up. The hole is in the incorrect position. Wow. GG. These guys really screwed the pooch. What do I do? What do I do at this point in time? Like, they literally will not fit because the plate doesn't line up correctly. Crikey. And will they fit if I bend the crap out of these pins? If that lines up to that hole, no. Does this one fit? No, it doesn't. That's mind-blowingly bad. Okay. So, dear listeners, dear watchers, what should I do? I mean, I could shove a switch in there, but that switch is just not going to work. I can flatten the pins and the switch will fit. But then how do I make that actually have continuity? This PCB is just straight up just a big fat fail right now. Wow. Alright, please, for those who are actually watching and have audio on, give me your thoughts. What should I be doing? You know, I could probably fill up the rest of this, so I'm just going to leave that for the moment. And at least I'll have a look at what this will be kind of looking like. But that is a terrible but then I'm not going to have my numpad plus and minus, and that's going to be even weirder. Now, because it's been so long since I've had this, I can't even go back to SuperBuy and say, hey, you need to hassle the seller because they sent me a dud PCB. Let that be a warning to anybody who's going to pick this up. I don't even have the link on hand anymore for this particular PCB. I'm just wondering, is there any way that I could like wire jump it to work? But then would there even be enough space to do that? That's blown my mind. And this is exactly why I said buying from TaoBao earlier when I was talking about having one less standoff and one less screw. It's like a box of chocolates because you really don't know what you're going to get. I mean, yeah, it's an experience, isn't it? Well, if I end up building this board, I guess it's going to be a much shorter stream than anticipated, thanks to a dodgy PCB. I was thinking those two were a little bit weird because they weren't rotated, because normally like your switches would be rotated so your pins are going to be on either the tops or bottoms, but they were in the vertical plane. And it's like whoever designed this PCB had no idea about how the actual layout of the switches was going to work on this. Buying another key, well, I don't think the key's going to make it work. TaoBao. Never cease to amaze. Now, in terms of rattle, now that my spacebar's in, let's try a spacebar. I don't know why that's jamming. There we go. Sounds pretty good to me. There's no real rattle on that plate mount stabilizer, so I'm pretty satisfied with that, actually, to be honest. Okay, now comes the bane, the bottom row bane. So there's some 1Us over here that I can put in, which is going to be easy. And stub on a piece of diode wire, then flatten the switch pins and thread the wire into the switch holes. Well, I do have like this massive packet of diode legs. I've kept every diode leg that I've cut off from my builds, so that is definitely possible. It's just a matter of making sure they're not going to short on their way through. Might play with that in a bit then. I'll definitely leave that till last. So I'm going to show you guys now. If you haven't checked out our Instagram, my Instagram, the Instagram, the first picture is actually all of the vomit sets that I've been trying to build. I have a whole stack of them over there because I've got 7 grab bags that I've purchased over the couple of years, and I've been trying to create vomit sets purely from grab bags without trading. And I'm up to 7 and I haven't completed a single full-size set. So it goes to show you that if you were going to try and complete a complete set, it is actually really challenging straight off the mark, only using grab bags. But you can create some really cool sets. So this is the closest I've got so far to a full size. So you see I'm missing a couple of function keys. I've got some on the numpad that's missing. And of course I've got one there that's missing, otherwise I'd have a full 60%. But the reason why I'm showing this is because I'm going to be using these to actually set the correct gap distance for my bottom row. Because I learnt my mistake when I built my 60% and I didn't do that. And so, yeah, I had to desolder it to fix that. And now I'm not going to make that mistake because I'm actually going to use some keycaps to prevent that from happening again. Because I prefer to do as little desoldering as possible. Okay, so it's going to be... Is that going to be... Wait. Don't bend my pins. Is that too close? Wow, this board is giving me all sorts of fun and games right now. Is that right? Okay, I should probably check that row that I've set in so I don't bend any more freaking pins before I go any further with it. Okay, so they're okay. Hey Taylor, thanks for dropping by, much appreciated. Looking good is not looking great simply because of that. Now of course if you dropped in a little bit on the late side to hear what the issues were with it, the PCB has been designed incorrectly. And it's killing me. Now, can I fit 3 switches in there? And the answer is going to be no. Not standard. 2 switches. Can someone tell me what's the usual for a bottom row here? Do I get 3 switches in here? Because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be like this, right? So if that butts up against there, I'm not going to be able to get that. There's not even enough for a 1U, right? What's a standard kind of layout in that space? Are they all 1Us? Because I think there's actually 3 switch placements here. Yeah, so I can get 3 1Us in there, and there is 3 switch placements there. What does the hole say? The hole say left, function, right alt. Well, that's not very helpful. So it's only 2 switches? But there's like a bucket load. Alright, well let's try the 1U route, and we'll see how bad that ends up. That fit quite nicely. That went in okay as well. So that'll fit in, and the pins went in just fine. Yep. Okay, so all those are in. All right, now I can't leave them on because that'll be in the way for trying to solder the others on, but I want to keep them down so they don't pop off. There we go. Yep. All right. So that's everything except for these stupid keys. And what do you know? I've actually got some spares. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. But of course 2 of them should be there, so yeah, I think I did take at least 1 out for my Switch collection, so that's probably why that's not going to be rounding up to 110 exactly. Oh no! The tag just went in the teacup. Oh well. So they're all in. They're all mounted quite firmly into the plate, and yeah, just making sure all of these are now seating quite firmly in and spiking the crap out of my fingers. It's time to solder up, I guess. Except for those two over there. So let's start it up again. Do apologize that I don't have very good top-down lighting. I tried making a setup for it and it kind of didn't really work very well. It was really glary. I kind of do need a much better light setup further above, kind of like at an angle with a diffuser, but it's very limited in my space here to be able to have something like that. So, but you know, we make do with what we've got. Yeah, we make do with what we've got. Righty, let's roll. Of course, I can't read anything that you're saying if you say anything while I'm doing this, so please just talk among yourselves and play nice. Of course, I will look up periodically as I do this, so if there's anything that you want to ask me or to talk about while I do this, then please, by all means, ask and I shall talk. Now I feel like 300's not doing very well today, and it could just be that the tip of my iron is getting a bit old and it's not doing very well temperature wise anymore. It's been through a lot of builds. It could be because the ambient temperature is also colder at the moment, so it's actually drawing heat away from it a lot quicker. So I might just bump it up about 20 degrees to compensate for that. Because normally it's very effective, it's very quick, but today it just seems to be behaving not so good. There we go, it is flowing a bit better now, so I think it might just be needing a little bit more temperature to counteract the cold. Now I'm not using the quad hands today because it's plate mount switches. If I use the quad hands, they would just pop out of the plate. But hopefully, because of this angle, you're still going to be able to see what is happening anyway. Not that soldering's the most enthralling thing to see, but you can always look and laugh at my soldering technique. I don't think my soldering technique's too bad, but hey Chokan, welcome. You didn't miss everything. There is still plenty to come. So what I've done with this 96 is I've put in the standoffs for the PCB. I've put in the stabilizers. I didn't clip them because they're plate mount, so there's no point. They're not going to rest on anything. I didn't lube them because they seem to be okay. We did test the sound on them a little bit, and they seem to sound alright for the moment. But while snapping in switches with my spool holders are always jamming, we did discover there's a little bit of weirdness to the PCB in that my numpad doesn't want to cooperate. They've actually designed the PCB wrong. The orientation is incorrect, so can't actually get those switches in. The guys here have been suggesting that I could like maybe wire jump straight to the pins or something like that with a bit of diode wire. I don't know how that's going to work yet, but we might investigate that shortly. And you're up to date, so yeah. And Choice Lamb asking about 5-hour stream. I hope not today. I hope not. Now, Dolas is recommending that I sort out those bad switches first. I know exactly what you're saying, but in theory, it's not a big deal because I still have the plus key and I still have an enter key on this keyboard. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, I can still have the full functionality. It just won't be a native numpad functionality. I do want to solder in these other switches because I can't move the PCB anyway. I already soldered the 4 corners in. So because of that, it doesn't really make that much difference for me to solder the rest of the switches in. And your comment came after I'd already done like half of this first row. So it's not that I'm discounting what you're saying. I do appreciate that feedback. It's more for practicality purposes, well, I might as well just keep going. Now I'm getting to the end of this first row, but I'll show you what I am talking about, Chokan, and anybody else who's joining in this stream later on, especially if they're watching this on demand and winding back to see what happened earlier, but they're just sort of skipping through the video and they've come across me talking about this issue. But it's a good one. It's a good one. It's the first time I've actually seen a board that's completely screwed it up that bad. I mean, if it was a community created board and somebody was completely new to making PCBs, I could kind of understand having a mistake like that. But this is obviously not that scenario. So for those 2 switches, you'll notice the rotation of the pads is at the top rather than on the side as you normally would expect. But even if you kind of accepted that and you went, you know what, I'm going to rotate my switches, the crucifix is going to be in the wrong position, so I'm going to go probably crack some keycaps anyway, the actual height of the holes are also wrong, because you'll notice how this is matching so that the switch is fitting in sort of weirdly, but if I actually match up that top pin to the hole in the top, it's actually slightly off. It has to be about there, and you'll see the hole does not fit. The stem is off by a couple of mil, like a mil and a bit. So if I did want to actually mount this correctly, yeah, I have to bridge it in some kind of way. So I might solder on a diode leg as suggested, and yeah, but it just means you're going to get weird crucifix issues. Otherwise, I'll just leave them empty. I'll just have to leave them empty, put a cap on it just to cover it up, but it'll just look really, really weird because they'll be depressed. They'll be depressed because the switch don't work. This if I angle the sucker in, or if I bend that pin up, bend both of these pins up. Of course, now I'm doing exactly what Dolas is saying, which is sort that out first. Now if I can get these to fit through the holes, okay, so that one's there. I don't even know how they did this. With great skill and magic, I would say. As for entering competitions, Chokan, yes, you probably would want to. I mean, there's some great prizes on offer, you know, just artisans now and then, and you know, kits from Kibio, things like that, right? Like, why would you not want to enter? Okay, so I've got one of them partially in. This one's bending in the wrong direction, so let's fix that. Come on. Still not far enough. So I'm bending the crap out of this. So you can, if it'll focus, hey, come down, come on. So you see how far I'm actually bending that? That's how far it's gone to get into place, so that it actually gets in that hole. So I can see the contacts now, but cool. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if it'll. So you can just see that pad 11 at the top in the middle. Half of that pin is visible, and the bottom one has half a pin visible through there as well. This is so ridiculous. But you know what? This is engineering at its best. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bend this even further across, because I really need that to be centered. I'm going to bend that over. Ooh, crap, maybe a bit too much. Well, the pin seems to still, I mean, the switch is still clicking, so okay, so now, alright, so if we look at pad 11, we now have the pin visible through both of those. I'm going to punch that switch out again, and and as dumb as this is going to be brilliant, because as Dolas is suggesting, I am going to exactly do what he's suggested. So I'm going to get a diode leg and another diode leg. Now you might say, hang on a moment, I only need one because they're not going to be that long, but I've got two switches I have to do it to. So I'm just going to put that kind of aside at the moment, and this is going to be real fun. Alright, wake up, switch, wake up. So I'm going to drop like a tiny amount of solder on this, and hopefully it's going to be enough to so delicate. Yo. Okay, so I'm tinning that. All right. Let's go with. This probably isn't the smartest way of doing it. Okay, so I've got that. Check it out, funks. Well, that didn't work. All right, plan B. Let's just tin it. Where's that stupid hole? Alright, so let's pop that in. We can see that it's Yep, we can definitely see the tinned contacts now through pad 11. There's my tinned contacts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop that in. Like that. It's standing up. Well, you probably can't see it very well, but you're just going to have to trust me. Look, there's the shadow of it. And I'm hoping that these diode legs will act as like a wick into that. Wait. Wish my camera setup would focus better. Well, it doesn't want to play nice, but you can. There we go. You can see the diode legs are sticking out of the hole there. One having fun with Kane. I hope it works too, because if it doesn't, well, snap. I'm just flooding the crap out of that pad, and I'm hoping that's going to wick in. If it doesn't, well, too bad, so sad, I guess. Let that reflow and get all the way down. Woo! Ouch. Okay, but here's the easiest way to test if it works, and that's with a multimeter. Now, this is a $10 multimeter from a cheap-ass electronics store, and I cannot believe there are people who build custom keyboards in our community who do not own a multimeter. It's $10. Invest in one, 100%. When you buy a soldering iron, right? When you get a soldering iron, it doesn't matter what you do, get yourself a multimeter at the same time, because it is the most valuable tool for any diagnostics, because at some point in time, either you'll screw up and you'll need one of these to check, or somebody else is going to screw up just like this and you're going to need to check, right? So it's $10, honestly. It's like, yeah. I was flabbergasted when I found out that some people who'd been in our community for so long did not have a multimeter. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so continuity test. There we go. It works. Continuity test. Right, 0 resistance. Fantastic. Let's press the switch. Damn it. It's not working. Well. Oh. There it is. It works. Now, if I lift my finger off, not pressing the switch anymore. Hey! Rightio, done. Now to repeat that on the other one. I want to say thank you to all of you guys who are in this stream, because without you guys, I probably would have rage quit on this board. But the solution has been found. The solution has been identified, and it works. It's not a pretty solution, but it's a good solution nevertheless. Okay, so can I see both pins? And that is a negative. This pin needs to be bent across a little bit. Okay, get in there. Yeah, bastards. Alright, so I can see the pins now on pad 10. Half of that pin on the top and half of that pin on the bottom. Now I have to go and get some pliers and I can clip those off. What that means is, though, I'm never touching those two switches again. Ever. Those switches can stay in there permanently. They're never coming out because I ain't going to go through that again. Alrighty. Electronic savvy people. I mean, you're building a keyboard. Some of these people design PCBs. How can you, like, not be savvy enough to go, you know what, I should get myself a $10 multimeter. Like, Aldi is an international store. Aldi was selling, like, multimeters that are significantly better than my multimeter for, like, 20 bucks. I thought about picking up one, but then I was like, I already have a multimeter and it does everything I need it to do. So I don't really need to get another one, even though it is technically better. And I decided to save myself 20 bucks and spend that 20 bucks on fountain pens instead. So, yeah. Too many hobbies. Right. Let us flood this pin. Okay. Well, looks like it went through. Alrighty. So while that's cooling off, let's let's keep going. And I can go back and check that. Now I did that first row, so now I can start on the second row. Gonna reflow that a little bit. There we go. That one looked a bit bowl shaped. Learned two things today. One, how to fit plate mount stabilizers. Two, how to fix really dodgy PCB problems. Now, for those who aren't aware of who Chokan is, by the way, Chokan's also got a really amazing YouTube channel. I think it's a bit more focused around 60% keyboards, but don't quote me on that. He can, of course, correct me on that, but you can find him, I think it's what, Mechanical Keyboards in Japan or something like that is his byline. So if you're interested in looking at another channel and checking out some really great videos, then please head over to that. And while I'm spruiking other things, hey, DIY Keyboards, thanks for coming along and joining the stream. Tay Keyboards is a local to us here in Australia. He's just hit 30,000 subscribers. That's 15 times the number of subscribers I have, and he's doing a really great giveaway. He's given away 3 keyboards as part of that that milestone. So if you're interested in winning, head over to Tay Keyboards and you can check out his latest video on that particular giveaway as well. Now, DIY Keyboards, who's just joined our chat, thank you very much to DIY Keyboards for sending me the switch crackers that I did a review on a couple of weeks back. Really lovely. I'd actually thought about doing switch lubing today, but I was like, I need to have the right tools to, when I say tools, I don't mean about opening the actual switches, because now I have got the switch cracker, but in terms of actually applying lube to the stems, and that's kind of why I decided not to do that. So, but if you are interested in a tool, a really great tool, very simple to use, you're not sure about it, check out the videos that DIY Keyboard has themselves, or you can check out my review of them before you decide to get one. But it's quite affordable. and it works amazingly well. Like I said in the video, you know, I was pretty confident that it would work, having seen the videos. I just wasn't sure how well it would work, and it works amazingly well. You do also have to realize that the inserts that I have are also the version 1, so the version 2 are meant to be better. And I think, what was it that you said? Somebody's actually taken apart 3,000 switches or something, wasn't it? And there was no wear visible yet on the actual inserts. So you can yeah, check that out as well. Now, of course, if you joined in late at the start of the episode, I did give some shout outs for upcoming meetups, in that the Melbourne meetup is happening on September the 15th. So if you are an Australian local and you are in the region, or you want to go for a bit of a trip down south, the Melbourne meetup will be happening on September the 15th. I believe Daily Clack is involved in organising it and sponsoring it. So really great Australian vendor. That's where I got these box switches from that I've put into this board. It's got an Instagram as well, and of course plugging Type Hype, which is a new forum to get in on. There's a competition happening on Type Hype. It's a photo comp, and you can win one of the founding creators of Type Hype's 150 switch collection. So make sure you head over to that. It's just typehype.net. Doing my bit to help out the local community, of course. And make sure you can also go and check out Keep Talk as well. Now, we've talked about Keep Talk a couple of times in our podcast and stuff like that. It's another website / forum community space. It just runs off a different platform and has a slightly different feel to it compared to like traditional forums kind of thing. But hey, I think there's heaps of overhead available. There's no reason why it has to be seen like competition, because it really isn't. Just go out and check out all these different sites. It's just like podcasts, you know. We've got friends, not competitors, at Top Clack, and we've also got the guys who are at Keep Town, and we all do things slightly differently. So the board is very much traditional podcasting, whereas the guys from Top Clack do live streaming, and Keep Town do a bit of both. They have live streaming episodes as well as pre-recorded sections, which I think is, you know, a really great way to do things. And obviously it takes a lot more effort to do that as well. So the fact that they go to that level of detail is fantastic. There are some older sort of podcast guys. I think they're kind of semi-defunct at the moment. So there's, is it The Board Makers, which is Jack Humbert and some other people there. The guy from Ortholinear Keyboards, OLKB, who did the Prionic and the Atomic and all of that kind of stuff. The original Ortho keyboard people, as well as the creators of QMK, is Jack and Co as well. So, you know, lots of love and support for those guys, because they make Ortho keyboards and programming keyboards, custom keyboards and designs so much easier and so much more within reach. I was going to say affordable, but it's not really an affordability issue. It's more of a accessibility. My bad. It's so much more accessible than anything else, shall we say. Who else? Who else should I be plugging out here in the community? Well, there was the Capcast, which was done by Crytone and Zorb and Cosmosis from Coscaps, but I think they've kind of gone into a bit of a hiatus, because I haven't seen any of their episodes come out for ages now. So yeah. Now, I don't actually have any cables yet from Juju Cables, but we've got a local guy here who did a really great video on his YouTube channel on how to solder. My soldering technique is not 100% the same as what his video says, but his video does have a really great tutorial on how to solder. So if you're kind of watching this and you've never built a board and you're a little bit apprehensive about how to do so, I'd say don't be. There's heaps of videos out there on soldering and building keyboards, and you can head over to Juju Cables to check that out. And Juju also make both USB cables, and now he's even getting into making audio cables. So if you need like a patch cable or something like that for your headphones, or you know, an extension, let him know, hit him up, and he might be able to help you out. For me, you know, like I said, there's no competition here. We're all good people. We're all friendly. So to mention other people and help them get a bit more exposure and connectivity with the community, that's where it's all about. So please, if you got something that you're doing, something you got going on, and you want it mentioned on the podcast, if you want it mentioned on the video, then let me know. You can send me emails to theboardpodcast@gmail.com, and at the next available opportunity, I'll try and make it happen for you. Because you know, we're a niche community, and everybody needs to have a little bit of helping hand to get started. So DIY Keyboard says, speaking of plugs, I need to add a bit to my site to promote the Board Podcast. Well, you know, I won't say that we're so famous that we won't need it, but yeah, would certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much, DIY Keyboards. Okay, third row done. Yeah, now in terms of other meetups that's happening, so this coming weekend is Seattle meetup, I believe, July 28th. July 28th. It is also the same day as my 20-year high school reunion. It's been 20 years since I finished high school. I'm not going to it because it's interstate, and the logistics of getting there was going to be quite problematic for myself and my wife and my daughter. But I don't think it's terribly a big loss because I didn't go to my 10-year or my 5-year or my 15-year reunions anyway. And it's not that I hate people that I went to school with, but the people that I want to stay connected with, I pretty much am kind of connected with them anyway. So yeah, it's all good. But Seattle meetup is a different issue in that I would love to go to Seattle meetup, except it's like in the order of a couple of $1,000s to do so, which is far less affordable compared to going interstate for my high school reunion. But one day Seattle meetup would be pretty cool. But while we're talking about expensive things, I also want to give a shout out to all of our 21 backers on Patreon, because without you guys, things like this would not be possible. They really do help in covering costs, additional overrun costs for our show. Now, I believe in transparency, so you know, the guys that actually put money into the show, they donate, and it all adds up to about $50 a month. Now, it's heaps. Like, that's a lot of money, $50 a month. But the majority of that actually goes into our podcast hosting, because originally Idea 23 was helping us with that cost, and it's currently at the moment that Idea 23 has provided us with a whole bunch of keycaps for our giveaways rather than a direct financial injection. So the primary coverage of our hosting cost is actually covered by our patrons, which is fantastic. So thank you very much to everyone who is on Patreon supporting us. It makes a big difference for us to be able to do what we do and not have to worry about it if our finances start to get tight for whatever reason. Now Kevin is working overseas, you know, in a new land, a new country, in a new environment, and adjusting to the real world, whereas you know, Australia is Australia, the land of ridiculous housing prices. I think we're actually more expensive now to get property or live and rent than traditionally some of the more expensive places like London. Or at least that's what I read somewhere. So yeah. I did my tax return yesterday, and I worked out that I'm only going to get 2.49% of my tax back in my tax return this year. I mean, it's better than none, but 2.5% is not very much at all in a tax return. So don't quite know where it's going to go into, but probably just costs in general. It's certainly not enough to get a custom keyboard, considering that some of these babies run into some very expensive territory. I would love to get a custom keyboard, but the thing is, if I spend $500, $600 all up US for one custom keyboard, that's the equivalent of 5 or 6 keyboards like this. And to try different things, to test different things, to show different things, to enjoy building different things, I would rather spend that same volume spread out over time across different builds than in one keyboard. So that's kind of the philosophy that I have at the moment with my limited finances, and it's no different with fountain pens, which is sort of a new functional hobby that I have, in that I now have a decent amount of pens and I've got a good amount of inks, but I'm spending moderate amounts spread across a lot of items, and I think that's a much better approach than spending a large amount on a singular item for now. Choice Lamb is talking about housing market. It'll burst maybe in another 10-15 years, or maybe when Australia becomes a post-apocalyptic country. But the housing market is definitely not my friend right now. We worked out the other day that 44% of my pre-tax income goes into mortgage. So yeah, banks right now are not my favorite people. Now that's pre-tax. Post-tax, it's about 68% of my income. So for a while there, while my wife wasn't working because of our daughter, we were actually going backwards in our savings quite significantly. My wife is working again part-time, so at least our savings aren't sliding so badly. And it's things like that, situations like that, where you think about, well, can I really afford hobbies like keyboards or fountain pens, where you can be eating up, important finances? And if it wasn't for the fact that we did have people who were really generous in donating to us for hosting costs and sending me kits and things like that to review and build, there very well could have been, a change in how the podcast and everything went. So yeah, really appreciate how the community's been able to help me out there. So DIY keyboards, and Chocken are talking about 1/16 of a Zephyr. Where does the hobby go from here? We've got layouts imaginable, RGBs, programmabilities. Do we just get more and more exotic, and where does it stop? And Chocken saying probably more exotic materials and finishes, and Choice Slam is talking about whalebone and ivory. Well, I can tell you the ivory part's probably going to get you into trouble. The whalebone probably not as much. Oxbone keycaps. It's like ox bones, buffalo bones are being used to make mahjong tiles. So technically, you could use that same methodology to make keycaps with. They'd be a bit brittle though. You certainly wouldn't want to drop them. I have to reheat that one because I kind of stopped halfway. There we go. Flow in properly. Manatee carry cases. Oh, come on. As for squid ink dice, I've got some squid ink in the fridge actually. It's no good for eating anymore because it's well past its best before. We bought it from Aldi and we made some squid ink pasta with it, and then we kind of forgot about it, and it just sat in the fridge for ages. So I probably should clear that out. But squid ink itself is actually not very flavorful as such, but it's salted to preserve the actual ink compound. So squid ink, when you buy it, is actually really, really salty. So you have to be careful about how much you put in and use, simply because you will be over salting your food because of that. We're into the home stretch. The bottom row, the infamous bottom row. That said, if I screw this bottom row up and I need to resolder it, at least I have the confidence in knowing that I have a good desoldering tool in the solder put to help me with that. Rightio, onto these 1Us. Whoop. Bloop. Probably a little bit on the light side, just give it a bit more. Yeah, my spool keeps jamming. I think I need to redesign that spool holder. One of my earlier 3D printed design projects, probably need a better revision. It's fine if you only do a small amount of soldering, but if you do a lot and you lose tension on the actual spool, that's when it goes backwards and then it gets loose and jams. But if you're just doing very small amounts of soldering, it's perfectly fine. I hadn't really thought about its complications at the time that I built it, designed it. Okay, that is it. Everything is soldered. As I say, tools down, no more solder. Multimeter out, and let's just check this hokey switch. Right, continuity test. We have continuity. We have no continuity, and press that switch. We have continuity. Let go of the switch. It's good. So the switch works. And of course, I'm not going to be too fussed about keycaps on it cracking or breaking, because if I'm going to be putting vomit caps on it anyway, it doesn't matter. Just have to remember not to put any expensive key sets on this. Not that I'm likely to, because I don't own expensive key sets anyway. Not that they don't appeal to me, but it's just because they're expensive key sets. The dregs of my tea, very flavorful, and thank you to Choice Slam for sending me some tea, which right now that isn't any of those, but just straight up Dilmah, because my wife made it for me this morning before she went to work. Alright, so How good does that sound? Hey? It sounds so good. Oh my gosh. That sounds so good. I love the way that the Navies sound. Okay. Now, challenge time. It's like endless bubble wrap. It really is. I'm gonna flip that over and let's get one of these acrylics. And I'm gonna, which side is this one? That is that's the way it sits. Yep. Okay, so I need to peel the inside off first. Ugh. Look how bad that tearing job is. Doesn't want to come off clean. Aish. Alright, Chuggin, thanks for coming along. I hope you had a good time watching me with this dodgy build. Have a great rest of the week. I suppose it technically doesn't really matter, because I can always just take it off and clean it up again later. Don't have to be too precious about this anyway, since I do have a spare technically. But this stuff that they tape on, it's really yeah. What do you mean this homie found out who you were? Which homie? What? Somebody stalk you there, Choice Lamb? Now, the real question is, do I peel the bottom off this as well before I put it on, so it's not covered in brown? I suppose I should, because that's the whole point of having a clear acrylic diffuser. Come on. Now, of course, we've recently started back announcing stuff on the podcast at request of one of our listeners. So, in a way, I can back announce this stream. We've just finished soldering the primary pieces for this keyboard, and we're in the process of putting on the acrylic diffuser on the back. Just having a horrible time getting this actual protective stuff off it. One of the things that we discovered was that the PCB that came with this was faulty. They had actually designed it incorrectly. So the switch positions for the plus key and the enter key on the numpad side of the 96 was rotated 90 degrees in the incorrect direction. And it was actually offset incorrectly as well, which meant when you tried to put the actual switch into the PCB through the plate, it didn't work. But one of our listeners here was very clever and said, hey, you should put some diode legs on it and then it should work. You just have to flatten it out a bit. And so that's what I actually ended up doing, and it worked pretty good. So yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. So I didn't even realize this, but it is acting as a diffuser because the bottom side's frosted and the inside is clear. I didn't even realize it was actually frosted on that side. This is killing me. Is there like an easier way, faster way to take this stuff off? It's not like, those plastic film that you get on, mobile phones and stuff like that, or microwaves and digital displays where you can just peel it with one hand and it all comes off neatly. It's Sydney, Australia, and it is currently 11:51 a.m. So it's almost lunchtime. By the time I actually finish this, then I will definitely need some food. And I will also need to go outside and apply another coat of spray varnish to my latest artisans that I've been working on. Now, if you haven't seen on our Instagram, I posted a picture of a DSA cap that I did, and I used that picture as a an entry in the type height photo competition for the 150 switch tester. So can be anything that's keyboard related. Anything keyboard related. It's 9:51. 9:51 means you are somewhere Europe? Oh, 9:51 p.m. Okay, so then you're definitely not in Europe. Alright, so that acrylic diffuser plate is now clean and sitting on that, so you can't see the full guts. As for Choice Lamb, I could tell because of the name and also your comment. One of your comments earlier, I was like, oh, it's you. But, yeah, I don't think it was terribly hard to figure that out, was it? Surely not. Okay, one screw in. Two. I really should have put like little O-rings or washers on this so that you don't run into any potential issues with fit and cracking and things like that. Why does this not want to go in? Let's try another screw. That one's a dodgy one. Oh, that one doesn't want to go in either. Alright, let's see if I loosen these. Move the plate a little bit. Will that go in? What is going on with this? Okay, well, it's a bit weird. Pennsylvania and Williamsport. Hey, I knew somebody from Pennsylvania a long time ago. They were a aspiring celloist, and she traveled 3 hours every week to get lessons in New York. Is that about right? I think she might have taken a plane or something like that. I don't know. Well, she said that she did that. Whether it was true or not, you know, didn't have to believe anything that she said. But yeah, and I looked at her LinkedIn profile recently, actually, and I found that she is still playing cello, and that's really cool to hear. So obviously she was still making her her dreams come true. Wow, this is really, really horrible because the standoffs are actually moving and rotating, and I think it's because the other side, when I screwed them on originally, I screwed them on fairly reasonable, but I think they're unscrewing, and you can't access them from this side either, so yeah, there's a bit of movement on that. Not much you can do. I don't have any Loctite, so yeah. Yeah, New York City in less than 3 hours by car. Okay, so that was good. Yeah, and her idol, of course, back then was Yo-Yo Ma, which I think it probably still is. So, here is the test. Here is the test of brightness. Whee! Look at that. Woo! We have victory. In that the PCB still works. It's pretty bright. I feel tired now. I don't want to accidentally hit any switches because since it's no doubt already working, it will actually produce keystrokes. But let me find my Elite Keyboard switch hitter. There is switch hitter. And what I'm going to do is can I resize switch hitter? No, I cannot resize switch hitter. So DIY keyboards, it cost about $100 Australian. Yeah. Now I'm gonna show you my right hand monitor where the chat is and everything is happening. So ignore for most part. You can see the recursiveness, but let's see how switch hitter escape. Okay, so no scroll lock. Got some weird assignments happening over in this corner that I'm not quite sure what they are yet. Backspace. Actually, I need to set this to auto 4. There we go. Okay, so whoa. So this dodgy switch. One of them's enter, the other one is minus. It's their positioning is producing the same output. Minus. Real good one. Real good one. Real bloody good one. Crikey. Okay, so I've got one switch next to the left which is not responding with anything, so that might need to be programmed. And then everything else, I believe, should be okay. Right, so I don't have a home and end key. I don't have a scroll lock key natively. I also don't have a plus key on my numpad, because that plus key is giving off a minus key. In any case, I will have to do some research to find out if this is reprogrammable or not. Ah, yes, it's a function key. Dolas, thank you very much for reminding me, because yes, the PCB did say it was a function key. So this key on the bottom that is next to the left that's not showing is a function key. Right. So that is a minus key. That's a function key. So I need to figure out how to reprogram that if it's an option for me to turn that into a plus key. And then the rest of it is actually putting a key set, including a short shift, which will be entertaining to find. So there you have it. There is the TaoBao 96 key kit with RGB backlit. Now I'm going to put the spacebar back on. I still have it in switch header, so I can mash the crap out of it without it being a problem. But people were concerned about how it sounds. So sounds pretty good. Let's pull up the backspace key. No rattling there. Enter key. That sounds pretty good to me. Oh, sticky keys just came on. No, go away. Alright. This enter key. Oh, okay, so that. There we go. That was fine. And my minus key. It works. Well, yeah, kinda, except for that annoyance. What an ordeal. What an ordeal. Now, of course, in wrapping up, I need to do things right, such as I need to clean and re-tin and coat the tip of my iron. So it's sitting around 200 degrees before. It's cooled off now. I'm just going to bring it back up to temp so I can re-tin it and ball it to protect it, put it away, and then it should be good to go when I want to use it again next time. So thanks very much everyone for coming along and checking out this live stream and how horrible the vendors screwed up their PCB. I'm a little bit flabbergasted, to be honest, at how they managed to do that. It sounds fantastic though. The navies on it are just amazing. Okay, we're at temperature, so let's re-tin. Let's give it a good clean. Scour it away, not too badly so it won't eat all of my tip. Give it another good clean on that. Rosin core is the bomb because you don't have to worry about using extra flux. And now I'm going to put a really super generous amount on. So I'm going to get this rolling ball of solder hanging off the end of my iron. And oh, it's just smoking everywhere. Yep. I'm just going to unplug it. I dropped the ball, but while it's still hot, I'm going to coat it again. And then we have to assume the vertical position. So you can kind of just see I'm holding it vertically. All that rosin's just smoking off, giving my hands a good coat of pine smoke. I don't know, do people smoke meats with pine? Probably not. I mean, oak, hickory, cherry wood, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if anyone uses pine wood to smoke meats with. Now it's actually going to take ages because the solder stays fluid around 270 and it's at 320 before, so it'll take a while before it actually firms up for me to be able to move it. So DIY Keyboard says no, pine will make you sick. Well, that's not surprising. So rosin fumes is an irritant. It's not super toxic unless if you're inhaling heaps of it. And of course, to blow the myth away about lead, so this is leaded solder. You see I'm not licking my fingers or anything, but you will not be breathing in lead fumes. Lead vaporizes at 600 degrees, okay? So that is double the temperature that I'm working at. Splutter is a separate issue because that's particulate coming off as the rosin core is burning off the rosin. But yeah, you're not inhaling lead fumes, right? Please don't get that wrong. Okay, so as you can see, there is a big fat ball of solder covering the tip of my iron there, and that'll basically once I heat that up again, it should just come right off, be easy to clean, and it prevents oxidation of my soldering iron tip, and yeah, make it easier for me to work with later. So there you have it. That is doing a 96 key from TaoBao and all of the problems that came with it. So I'm going to unjack that right now and leave those caps on it because I can. Now it came with some feet. It came with 2 strips, which I'm not quite sure where they're meant to go. On the back, I suppose. They are the right size for... I think they're supposed to go on the back because if you put them on the front, they're a bit thin, and that'll just stop it from sliding around. Yeah. Unless, of course, I decide to cut these in half and I can put one in the front and one at the back. What do you reckon? Should I chop that in half? Because they only gave me 2. I would have preferred them to have given me 4, but you know, that's just how it is. It's not too bad. The edges aren't that sharp, so it's really just more about sliding rather than anything else. I might just put them on the back. It's 3M adhesive on this, if you can trust it, so it should be pretty good stuff. There's no markings on it, so you kind of just have to eyeball where you're going to put it and hope it's straight. Yep. I live in a tiny ass apartment, right? So I can't even do barbecue or anything like that. I don't have space on my balconies for a barbecue or even like a charcoal grill thing. I don't really have any space outside, but I love watching, you know, the videos and stuff like that on guys doing barbecues and smokers and stuff. I watch All Things Barbecue. I watch Pitmaster. I watch the guys from Sous Vide Everything. That's also really good. Yeah. I watch Eater channel. There you have it. Feed on. So now my biggest challenge is reprogramming this, if it's even an option, because I didn't see a reset switch anywhere. So if there's no reset switch, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. And if there is a reset switch somewhere, you can't even access it easily because it's doesn't appear to be designed for that. I should have paid a bit more attention to see if there was a reset switch, but doesn't look like there is one. Alrighty. That's it. We're done. We're done. Thanks very much, guys. Please hit like. Please hit share, of course, to spread the word. If you haven't, you can also check out our Instagram. You can check out our Patreon. You can check out, and hit like on Facebook, even though everything that goes on Facebook goes on Patreon, which also goes on YouTube and on Reddit. And we now also have a presence on TypeHype, which is a great new community space for those who might be refugees from other sites. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go over to TypeHype now and see if so the live stream actually even turned up on TypeHype, because TypeHype has a RSS feed on it. So let me just show you. So this is TypeHype. You can see right here under content creators, there's the live stream. The actual live stream got picked up by the RSS feed, which is really fantastic. And right now there is a whole bunch of stuff, people talking, and you can see the actual competition. So what TC is giving away is this massive tester. Like, how long would it take for someone to collect this if they tried to go from scratch, right? It would be insane. And that includes shipping worldwide with a reasonable means to your door. Okay, so all you have to do is put in photos into the thread here, and it's a pretty chunky picture there, but that's my entry. This is one of the keycaps that I've been working on. It's actually outside getting some matte varnish spray on it, but you can see other people are posting some cool stuff as well. Get in on it, because why not? Who doesn't want to win a massive Switch collection, right? So you got until August the 5th to get involved, and even if you don't have anything fancy, you got to be in it to win it. Okay, so that is TypeHype. Just head over to typehype.net and check it out if you want to. Of course, no obligation to do so whatsoever. All right, and the time is 12:12. What a good time to wrap up. Thanks everyone for checking out the stream, of course. Please check out our podcast if you haven't yet. And thanks to everybody who's been in chat, talking, commenting, giving me feedback and whatnot. So I'm going to say my goodbyes now. And of course, because there's always that lag, I don't want to cut off when I say goodbye. So I have to wait until the actual lag finishes, and then I'll stop the stream. So, hooroo, thanks for coming along. And of course, as always, until next time, happy clacking.